Now let's move on to other issues. The New York Post is reporting that billionaire George Soros' Open Society Foundation has funneled $37 million to the Working Families Party and other lefty groups that are backing Zoran Mamdani, the hard-left socialist frontrunner to be the next mayor of New York. What do you make of this donation? It's not terribly surprising, but that Zoran would take it. I mean, I thought he didn't even want billionaires to exist, let alone fund his campaign.
It's a great point, Rita. It explains a lot about why a party that calls itself the Working Families Party has so much more in common with the over-credentialed college elites with their trust fund socialism and their sort of Nepo baby economics, than it does with what actual working class Americans, working class New Yorkers, Black New Yorkers, and Hispanic New Yorkers actually want. Excuse me. You have this sort of cultural divide in which working class people want good jobs that pay well, and the elites want a surf cast of illegals to do all the work and themselves to get free things like, free rent and free groceries and free buses and so forth, so that they could stay at home and make podcasts. And that point of view, having an open border and a welfare state, being anti-America and anti-Israel, like this is very much what the Soros Foundation and other leftist billionaire foundations and nonprofits push. It's because they swim in the same waters as the NGO staffers, who are the same types of this over-credentialed college elite who make up the left today. And so they like to pretend that this is like working class politics, working class populism, but it really isn't. It's this sort of trust fund socialism, and it's very much at odds with what working people actually want. But I saw that Soros donation. I thought, oh, that makes a lot more sense now.
Now, what do you make of those who condemn criticism of Soros as anti-Semitic? I think it's one of the more absurd claims we hear, but it's nevertheless popular among some in the media and in academia.
Oh, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're going to give me a list of all of the people you think are the enemies of your country, and it's 5 people or 5 billionaires and they're all Jews, I might start to think, okay, I mean, this person might have a problem with Jews, but one person, like, of course it's not. He is actually representative of very anti-nation state, anti-democratic policies. He believes explicitly in open borders. He's very clear about that. So to say that it's anti-Semitic to criticize him is absolutely absurd. He's taken a very unpopular position, and the fact of his lineage, his ethnicity, should not be able to shield him from criticism. That's just as racist as saying that you should criticize him because he's Jewish. So I think that that's nonsense.
Absolutely. Before you go, the Epstein saga, Jeffrey Epstein, is one that's not going to go away. I think this is the Trump administration's first big mistake in this second term. I want to play you a clip of former Trump lawyer Alan Dershowitz saying he knows there's a list.
I know for a fact documents are being suppressed, and they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them, but I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything.
Tia, can Donald Trump leave this issue unresolved? It's clearly not a priority for him. It seems to be an irritation, but it's certainly an issue that the base wants properly addressed. This seems like a cover-up.
I have to say I'm with the president on this. I don't know why people are so obsessed with this story. I think maybe the influencers who kind of stake their reputations by making podcasts about this and talking about this a lot feel very strongly about it. But honestly, Rita, I don't think the average American is thinking about the Jeffrey Epstein file. I think they're thinking about whether groceries are going to go up. I think they're thinking about whether they're going to be able to afford presents for Christmas. I think that they're really focused on.
But can't we do both, Batia? Can't we do both? Can't we address those big issues like inflation, cost of living, the border crisis, but also try to get to the bottom of what rich and very influential people were benefiting from the sex trafficking that was happening? It seems like the swamp is still in effect, and if you're rich enough, if you are well connected enough, you can get away with the most hideous of crimes.
I personally don't think there's any evidence that the sex trafficking of minors went much beyond Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. She went to trial, and in her trial, there was a lot of discovery. And one of the main witnesses for the larger conspiracy that they used the sex trafficking of minors to entrap all of these people Alan Dershowitz is talking about turned out to have fabricated part of her story. So, you know, of course, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were sex trafficking young girls for their own disgusting pleasure. And I'm glad that she's in prison for that and that he seems to have, you know, paid a price for it. But the larger conspiracy that there's a list, when this was actually brought up in a court of law where you had an adversarial process looking at the facts, there did not seem to be much of a there. There were two business leaders who were married, who had for some reason paid off Jeffrey Epstein, but it was never alleged that they had paid him off over the young girls. It was more just because they were married, they wanted this kept secret. So to me, like, the thing that made him a monster was the pedophilia, was the young girls, was the against their consent. But everything that goes beyond the two of them seems to me, from what the evidence that I have seen that came up in an adversarial, legitimate process in courts of law, seem to be other stuff. So to me, there's a great piece in Compact Magazine by Michael Tracy. It's incredible. He goes through this point by point by point. But you know what? If you're bothered by this, anyone who's bothered by this should keep pushing for it. I totally support that, and I totally respect it. I just don't see this breaking apart the MAGA base.
No, I agree with you 100% that this is not going to fracture Donald Trump's support. There are people who are upset about it, but I don't think they're going to suddenly become Democrats or stop supporting the MAGA ideals. But I just think there's so many unanswered questions just about Jeffrey Epstein himself, his influence, how he came to accumulate the enormous wealth he did. But it's a discussion for another day. Tia Unga Sargon, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much, Rita. God bless.